In this video, we're going to take a look at how you would set up your bike computer if you want to use navigation for an event. And I'm also going to cover off the last minute checks you should do prior to making your way to the start line. So in this example here, I'm going to revisit this event which we covered in, or we talked about in our first video, and it's just an example. So for every event, you should see a link to the course or the route. Now we'll load up kind of a display like this one here, where we have the route. Now again, mentioned in the second video in the series, watch out for the email from the organizer. They do they reserve the right to make changes to the route right up, in the last couple of days, and that's in case there's any road issues like roadworks where there may be a road closed or some event that just happened, like for example a funeral. It may be best to avoid that, and the organizer will may tweak the route, and watch out for that email. They may have a link in the email for the recent or the up-to-date route. So in this case here, I log on, and there's a couple of options in here. I'm going to go through the way I use this myself, but there are options in here where you can send it directly to a device. If you've got your bike computer synchronized with rider GPS, then that's fine. But for me, what I will do is I will export the GPX file here, and I'll just store that somewhere. And then there are two options. So I'm using or going through the option here for a Garmin bike computer. If you use Wahoo or Hammerhead or whatever bike computer you use, there'll be different ways of getting the route onto that device. But the kind of principles are much the same. You get the route, get it into whatever portal your bike computer uses, and it usually will sync from there. So within Garmin Connect, this is one way to do it. On the left-hand side here, we choose courses, we import, we choose the file we just downloaded, get started. It's a road cycling. We give it a name and we save. So it can set it to private, which is fine. And that's saved. Now, what should happen when you synchronize your bike computer, or you click the option down here, sync device, I'll send it to my Edge here, sync device. And whenever I connect the device, whether directly to my laptop or I connect using my phone, the route will now synchronize onto the bike computer and I'm ready to go. Another way to do it, and this is actually the way I typically use myself, if you use Strava. Now within Strava, you do need to link your Garmin Connect to your Strava account. And in here, the option is to create the route. And it's very similar what I just showed you. This option to import the GPX. And we said this is a ride. We import it. And there's the route. And then we've got an option here then to save the route. We give it a name. So this is 4 Towers. I usually put the year on this, 2026. So next year, I know that that's like the previous year's version. Maybe the same, but it can change. Save the route. And once that starts, it's marked. We'll just get this star icon here. That will automatically synchronize with my Garmin, and I'm ready to go. So at this point, we have our route downloaded. And what I always do as well before the event, evening before, switch on your bike computer, make sure the route is there. Sometimes during the transfer, it can get corrupt, super rare, but you don't want to be on the morning of the event running around trying to get a route map. Just check it the evening before, switch on your bike computer, go into courses, make sure the route's available for navigation. So at this point, we got our bike checked on, covered that in the previous video. We got our route. Next thing will be to start packing up. So obviously the bike, but then like your cycle shoes, make sure you got the right ones, helmet, and then pack your whatever clothing you're going to wear for the event. Check the weather forecast. If it's going to be raining, obviously you're going to need rain gear. Middle of summer, you can pack lighter. Um, Entirely up to yourself what your preferences are and what time of year it is. But get all that ready the evening before. And then you're going to be ready for the start line with your navigation, with your bike and spare parts and tubes and got whatever appropriate bike clothing. And away you go. You should be self-sufficient to get around the course. On the day of the event, you will be allocated or given a brevet card. The idea of the brevet card is that it's an official way for you to track progress on the route, and it contains important information as well about controls. And the card is typically given back to the organizer, and eventually you will be issued a brevet number when it's validated. So the front of the card, well, it's kind of folded into a kind of accordion, but the one side you'll have your name on it. You'll have the sometimes the name of the event, the date. So this one here is from last year. Um, but the business end or most information is on the other side here. So the organizer will define like where the controls are. So these are points at which you must register your progress. And there's two ways that's done, and I recommend you do both. So the first one is there's normally a WhatsApp group created, and when you reach the location, you take a picture of you and your bicycle at that location. It's usually like the signpost going into a town. So once I get to, let's say, Mizzen Head, I that's a very obvious place. I'd probably find the Wild Atlantic Way sign with Mizzen Head written on it. Take a picture of me and the bike, send it to the WhatsApp group, and the organizer can see that I've reached Mizzen Head. The second way to do this is that you will note, get your brevet card and note your arrival time. Now, the way I do it is because it's sometimes raining, you don't want to be taking out this card and trying to write it, and it's just pain. So what I normally do is I will take a photograph of myself, and the camera will store in the information. You go into the picture, you can get the time the picture was taken. And after the event, when I complete it, I will go back over my pictures and look at the time I arrived and note it here in my brevet card. This Mizzen Head on this route here, which is the Cork 600, 52 kilometers in you hit Mizzen Head. Now, what these other times down here mean is that this control opens at 7:44 and the control closes at 9:28. What that means is that if you're racing the event, which you shouldn't, if you get to the control before this, it's not open, so you can't validate yourself. Now, I know you can take a picture and go on, but under the rules of an Audax, the control doesn't open until 7:44. So to get there, it's opens starts at 6 a.m. in the morning, so you're given an hour and 44 minutes. To do 52 kilometers is fair going. So that's why Audax not about speed. So that's what that first time is when the control opens. The second one is probably the most important one, though. It's the one people run into trouble with, is when the control closes. Because if you arrive at this control at 9:30, in theory it's closed. You've actually you're not going to complete the event because you're behind on making it here to the finish line at 2200. Now, people can have punchers, things can happen. Of course, you can continue on if the organizers there, hey, had a problem, I'm going to make up time. But the reason you really need to try and adhere to this is if you go on to do an event such as Paris, Paris, which they can be very strict on this, you just need to be very conscious of time management. We move on to the next control. It opens at 9:22 and it closes at 9:44 and it's at 1:01. And again, you would note your arrival time. I'll send the message to the WhatsApp group and it goes on and on. The last control is at 5:58 at Clonakilty. That one opened at 00:36, closed at 19:12. And finally, Skibbereen, No rider should be back before 2 a.m. in the morning. There'd be some going if you were. But the actual control itself, this event is finished at 2200, which is the day after it started at 600 here, because this is a 600 event. So that's the general information on the card. So you will be given one, and while it's easy just to use the WhatsApp group, and it's usually enough to, the organizer will send your details through, and you'll be marked down as having officially completed it. But it's still good practice to update your Brevet card, understand the numbers on here, because you could show up at an event someday where it's Brevet card only. And you got to be able to, understand and fill in here. In the past, as well, and it is, especially on something like Paris Brest Paris, it's a useful thing to do. What if your phone broke and you had no way to take photographs, like to prove that you're in a location? In that case, what you can do is, let's say I'm in Mill Street. I might go into a shop, I might buy something and get a receipt, and that receipt will have the name of the shop, it'll have the time I was, purchased, whatever. Keep that receipt, because that can be also used as proof of passage. So if there's ever a query afterwards, hey, you didn't take a photograph, you didn't send it through, keep your receipt. That is good enough for proof of passage. So the whole idea here is you got to prove some way that you did pass through Mill Street, that you did not take a shortcut and bypass here. You got to prove it some way. So a lot there about Brevet cards, but they're a really important um, tracking system and information system for Audax events.